And Ritchie County EMS Medic 453 all were on scene to fight the fire. We are currently unclear about how it started and if there were any injuries. We will update you as we get more information. At the scene of a head-on crash last night that ended with one driver being flown by a helicopter to the hospital, it wasn't just professional first responders who helped. Laura Bowen explains.
It was getting dark outside. Kevin and Jamie Nicholas were nervous about icy road conditions. They still had hours left to go on their drive to D.C. to drop their son off at his military base. That's when a car lost control.
The next thing I know, I noticed a car literally just drive right through the snowy median.
Straight at us.
The incoming car was originally headed westbound on Route 50 in Wood County, but crashed into a vehicle going east right behind the couple. The Nicholases immediately pulled over to help the drivers. Daylight was fading fast, and the car that lost control had tinted windows. The only reason the couple could see the driver was because the window was busted, but the woman wasn't alone.
And at that point, I heard her mention that she had, a kid in the car.
The doors wouldn't budge. However, the couple wasn't alone either. At that point, at least 3 other drivers had pulled over to help, and one of them had a tool that could break windows.
They busted out the rear window of the minivan. A gentleman crawled through and got to the child, and then got the child out of the car seat. And fortunately, he was able to get one of the doors open from the inside. They were probably just locked.
With help on the way and a 4-year-old on hand, people stayed to take care of everyone on scene. A nurse had pulled up to the wreck as well.
And so we literally got into the back seat of her car, and the little boy was very, very scared. So I was like, you want to come sit on my lap? And he crawled over and just curled up. And
the Nicholases say that up until the arrival of the emergency crew, about 10 cars from both directions had pulled over to help. Sergeant Cross reports that the child and driver not at fault were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. As of Sunday morning, the mother was in critical condition. Reporting out of Parkersburg, I'm Laura Bowen with WTAP.
2 people have died after a crash in Athens County Sunday morning. According to Ohio State Highway Patrol, the Athens Post is handling a single vehicle fatal crash on Dairy Lane. Troopers say the car slid off the left side of the road into a creek. Names have not been released at this time. A West Virginia Air National Guard firefighter was killed fighting a fire officials say was arson. The West Virginia State Fire Marshal said in a news release that the airman was fatally injured responding to a mutual aid call on Charlestown Road near Martinsburg today. His name has not yet been released, but the West Virginia National Guard says he belongs to the 167th Airlift Wing in Martinsburg. The West Virginia State Fire Marshal's office has ruled the fire an arson. About 20 minutes before that fire, authorities say another fire was intentionally set about 3 miles down the road in Jefferson County. Officials say the 2 fires are connected and both have been ruled as arson. The Fire Marshal's office and the state police are continuing to investigate. Switching gears now, while teddy bears may be one of the most traditional toys, there's nothing traditional about this Christmas story. 2 years ago, Nancy Miller's cousin's home burned down in a fire along with every keepsake inside. One of the biggest losses was a teddy bear. Her cousin's son Avery could not sleep without the bear for a long time after that fire. But one fateful day, while at Goodwill with her family, Nancy spotted something familiar. A tie-dye bear poked out between the other toys. Miller bought it, wrapped it up, and waited for Christmas. When Avery opened it, it was quite the hit.
While we were waiting on everybody to get ready to open everything else, he kept going around to everybody talking about it. And when he was talking to myself and my husband, he's like, so Santa saved the bear out of the fire?
She says it was the most important gift she gave in 2020. Winter has officially begun, and it is important to be prepared for when winter weather strikes. During winter, the Mid-Ohio Valley can experience all different types of weather, ranging from snowstorms to even severe thunderstorms. One of the best ways to be prepared for the weather is by having an emergency kit in your car. In the kit, you will want to have supplies that include extra food and water, blankets and clothes to stay warm, and a flashlight. Cat litter can help with tire traction. You'll also want to make sure you have enough supplies at home to last a couple of days.
Basically, anything you need to make it through 72 hours without power, without emergency responders being able to get to you. Say a major winter storm happens and you're completely cut off, you can't travel. What do you need to make it through at least 3 days? And that's very personal. I usually say food, water, and medicine, but maybe you need some other supplies. So think about that and get that together now while the weather's nice, and then you have it for the winter.
You will also want to have supplies to heat and light your home safely in case you lose power. The 15th winningest team in college football is heading to Memphis this week to take on the Army in the Liberty Bowl. The Mountaineers and Black Knights are set to play at 4 p.m. on New Year's Eve. West Virginia University was originally slated to play Tennessee, but the Volunteers backed out due to COVID-19 issues. The Black Knights were supposed to play in the Independence Bowl this year, but that game was canceled when too many teams opted out of postseason play. Army was 9-2 this year, only losing to 6th-ranked Cincinnati and 22nd-ranked Tulsa. WVU went 4-4 in the Big 12 and 5-4 overall. This will be just the 4th time the two teams have played. Army has won twice. The Mountaineers have won once. You can catch the AutoZone Liberty Bowl on ESPN. Authorities say they have identified the man responsible for the Christmas Day explosion in Nashville. That is coming up next at 11.
Serving Parkersburg, Marietta, and the entire Mid-Ohio Valley. You're watching WTAP News at 11.
2 days after Nashville was shaken by a massive explosion, police say they know who is responsible. Investigators say he died in the blast and acted alone. The latest from NBC's Dan Scheneman.
On Christmas Day, a blast shook downtown Nashville. Today, authorities named the bomber.
We've come to the conclusion that an individual named Anthony Warner is the bomber, that he was present when the bomb went off, and that he perished in the bombing.
Investigators used DNA evidence to zero in on Warner. The motive is still under investigation. Police believe he acted alone.
There is no indication presently that anyone else was involved in this crime.
The bomb left a massive crater, more than 40 buildings and businesses damaged.
I just saw the biggest flames I've ever seen.
Nashville police officers, credited with saving lives by clearing the area, talked about it for the first time today.
Once we made contact with everyone we could and made sure that they were getting out of the building is when we started to move down.
The blast left 3 people injured. No one was killed.
I was God. I'm not going to shy away from that. I am a spiritual person, and so I truly believe that when I do this job, I'm led by that voice.
The officers giving thanks. The Christmas Day bombing wasn't worse. Dan Scheneman, NBC News.
Coming up, we've got another look at the weather. Meteorologist Kurt Greenfield has your full forecast next at 11.
Now, here's your pinpoint weather forecast.
Well, after a very snowy Christmas, it turned out we had a day of thawing. And as a result, a good deal of the snow turned over to meltwater and has run into the creeks and streams. Fortunately, the rain that's on the way is fairly light and will only help with that melting. We are not expecting any flooding issues as we go through the next 48 hours. Let's take a look at our current radar situation. The radar satellite composite shows still cloudy conditions, but it does look like the line advanced into the Mid-Ohio Valley, and now a few of our northern counties are receiving at least some passing showers. Generally, the rainfall is north of I-70, though. When we take a look at the view here on the Skycam, on the Jan Dill Skycam atop the Lafayette Hotel, 46 degrees, it feels like 40. The winds from the south at 14 are helping to buoy those temperatures up. Relative humidity is about 50% at last report. The barometer 29.98 inches is steady. And you can see that most of the streets downtown have been treated and are passable. No problems to report. We are so far above the freezing mark. However, that's not the case when you look to the south and the east into the mountains of West Virginia. Lewisburg is at 28. Elkins may be 42, but Clarksburg is at 36, and we're still expecting those temperatures to fall. 37 in Charleston, 46 is pretty common between Huntington, Athens, Parkersburg, and Zanesville. When we look for the winds, generally from the south, double digits, but there are some calm reports as well. And they pick up generally to the west as that cold front is approaching. We're about 30 degrees warmer than we were yesterday at this hour, and Athens checks in with about 33 degrees warmer. Lancaster is 40 degrees warmer. That's an incredible jump, and that really gives you an idea of the roller coaster that we've got. So the most recent radar echo shows a brief burst of showers in eastern Washington County, crossing over to Tyler and Pleasants County, but most of the rain shower action is to the north, Noble County, Monroe County, maybe in Morgan County. Look at that rain turn over to snow about halfway up the lower peninsula of Michigan and through much of Ontario. Well, this is a cold front disturbance that's tracking through the Great Lakes, and we'll see how that plays out in just a second. Here's the future cast. We've stopped at 2:30 in the morning, and most of the showers are just clearing our area. When we continue on at 6 a.m., it looks fairly dry, still some cloudiness as we go through Monday. It's cold enough for a burst of snow to our north and east by 9 o'clock. But then the sky's clear, and it does look like as we get into Tuesday, it'll be mainly sunny by Tuesday evening. It looks like most of the clouds are gone. So there's that vigorous low pressure system over Lake Michigan. It's propelling all this rain shower action through the warm sector. The warm front is pushing to the north across Michigan, and that trailing cold front is sweeping around through the Mid-Ohio Valley, or through the region, I should say. The forecast for tonight, a few showers expected, generally around midnight to 4 a.m., 40 degrees. That's all for the low. We don't change our temperature much. Tomorrow's high, about 42, and mostly cloudy conditions. So we'll continue to see that melt, but we drop well below freezing as we get to Monday night, and then again Tuesday night. But we'll be back above the freezing point for Wednesday and Thursday's rain showers as we wrap up this year. Back to you now.
Thank you, Kirk. Now for some business news. Here's CNBC's Seema Moody with a look at the week ahead.
2020 trading wraps up, record online returns, and the 737 MAX flies again, all in the week ahead. Another short trading week, but keep in mind it's normal trading hours on New Year's Eve, so you can get your last-minute 2020 stock trades in. The market is closed all day on Friday for New Year's Day. What a year 2020 has been. With only a few trading days left, the Dow is up 6% this year. It has far underperformed the S&P 500's 15% gain and the Nasdaq's enormous 43% rally. But remember, the Dow and S&P 500 were down more than 30% for the year at their worst levels in March. As for the Nasdaq, it had dropped roughly 23%. After a record holiday season for online shopping, here comes a record return season. According to CBRE, more than $70 billion in online returns are expected this year. That's up from $42 billion last year. All that will continue to strain UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service as they get ready to handle the influx of return shipments. And a different type of a return, Boeing 737 MAX returns to the skies on Tuesday. It makes its first commercial flight after a 20-month grounding. American Airlines will fly the jet from Miami to New York's LaGuardia Airport. About 180 passengers are expected on the flight. I'm Seema Modi. Get all your business news on CNBC.
Coming up next, we talk to an ice sculptor from the area about how he got into it. Meet Tyson Whistler next at 11. If you have been to the Marietta Ice Festival, you've likely seen the work of local ice sculptor Tyson Whistler. Hannah Stutler talked to him about how he got into ice sculpting and the process of making an ice sculpture.
Tyson Whistler has always had a passion for art, and as he got older, sculpting became a hobby. Tyson's love for ice sculpting started several years ago when he was introduced to ice in the culinary field.
I started putting my hand in the ice sculpting about 15 years ago, and I used to work in the food industry, still currently do, where I was hired to put on a sculpture for a buffet every single Sunday, and I kind of took the opportunity to learn how to hone in the trade and become a little bit more, had a little better attention to detail with it.
After a while, members of the community began showing interest in purchasing his carvings, and Whistler now makes dozens of carvings a year. Each sculpture requires significant planning and preparation. The process of making a sculpture begins with making the 300-pound block of ice, which takes 60 hours. The carving itself then takes a couple of hours.
The carving itself generally takes 3 to 4 hours. So lots of times if it's a simple carving I've done before, sometimes I'll do it all on the same day. I really prefer doing a 2-hour period where I carve out the rough outline of the carving, and then I'll come back, load it up, refreeze, come back the next day, and then I'll detail it. Take out all the rough edges and do some fine feathering or any sort of detail that.
Whistler says that if someone is interested in learning how to make an ice sculpture, the best way to start is by doing research on the topic, not being afraid to make mistakes, and having fun.
Research and don't be afraid to screw up. It's obviously, ice is a very, very fragile product. At the same time, it's really hard to work with. So you kind of have to be patient, and you have to make mistakes in order to learn and grow and get better at it. The best way to kind of start, if anybody should interest in doing it, you can do a lot of research online.
Whistler will be creating the ice sculptures for the Marietta Ice Show coming up in January. Reporting in Marietta, Hannah Stetler, WTAP News. This is home.
Coming up in sports, we celebrate the West Virginia football Class A state champions, the St. Mary's Blue Devils.
Behind on your electric bills? Mon Power can help. Contact us as soon as possible to see how we can help you during these challenging times. We can connect you with assistance programs that may help you budget your monthly payments, catch up on past due bills, and avoid service interruption. Please don't wait. Contact us today at mon-power.com/assistance or call 800-736-3407.
This is Jim Staley, Staley Law and Mediation. This happens far too often. In a small community like ours, it affects us all. Please, stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Don't let social distancing keep you apart. Come together and worship through online services. WTAP has made it easy for you to find services in our area. For a full list with links, go to WTAP.com and click on the Explore Our Mid-Ohio Valley Churches webpage link to find your church. Or if you don't have a home church, visit one of the many listed here. Stay connected through the Mid-Ohio Valley Churches webpage. Brought to you by WTAP. This is home.
And a high school football season like no other, the St. Mary's Blue Devils persevered and became Class A state champions. Ryan Wilson tells the story of how this team achieved the ultimate goal.
It was a wonder if football would even be played on the high school level in West Virginia this fall. Governor Justice and the WVSSAC pushed back the season a few times before they finally allowed players back in early September. For St. Mary's, they worked as hard as anyone in the state to make sure COVID-19 did not cause them to end their season.
Throughout the whole year, we had stayed green, we had stayed yellow, and then when the playoffs started, they allowed gold to play. And I don't know, it's just crazy. And then the beginning of the year, you begin senior night. That told you, that who knows when this is going to be it. So everybody knew that you never knew when your last game was going to be.
With that in mind, Coach Moat and the Blue Devils were ready to work. It's an obvious goal for every team at the beginning of the year to win a state championship, but Coach Moat thought this team could do some damage. He says the key were two things: health and humility.
You go into the season and you know what you have on paper, but I've always went into the season, you have to stay healthy and you have to stay humble. And one of those you can control. You can control being humble. You can't control being healthy. So, we were healthy all year long.
The Blue Devils came out of the gate strong, defeating Alexander and Grafton by a combined score of 75-12. They also won the next two games handily. Next came a tough road test as the number one team in Single A against the Yellow Jackets of Williamstown. The Blue Devils fell 20-7. It was a gut check for the guys, but Coach says it's not about what you do in wins, but how you respond from losses.
I mean, I've always had the philosophy: you get knocked down, you got to get back up. The difference between success and failure, how does one choose to respond to adversity? When you lose, it's adversity. But how are you going to respond? And our young men, they responded well and bounced back up.
The guys took that message to heart. The Blue Devils went on to win their final 4 regular season games in dominant fashion. Usually the teams that win and compete for championships get hot during the end of the season, and Moat saw that in his team, as they were playing their best ball heading into postseason play.
Each week, I think you got to improve. I feel like our young men did that. Even through the years where maybe you weren't as successful, you see progress made. It may not be on the scoreboard, but you see progress made with your team. And I feel like our team did this. They were able to progress as the season went.
The lessons they learned came back to them in their first playoff game against Midland Trail. A back-and-forth affair really tested this team's will. They came back and won the game 52-49 to move on to the semifinals. Coach Moat knew it wasn't the best defensive performance, but he admired how hard his team fought to win that game.
Our guys kept fighting, and that's obviously a credit to them. And then what was unique, or what was neat, is that your defense responded the next week. And if the next week it wasn't for your defense, then obviously you probably wouldn't have won that game.
It was hard not to watch the state's educational map for COVID-19, as the Blue Devils kept seeing Ritchie County as red on the map, meaning they may not be able to play in the final round. After the Midland Trail game, Moat found a way to motivate his team for the Pendleton County game after just a walk through the hallway.
Our 2016 state championship trophy was sitting in the trophy case, and I stopped the guys and told them, I said, this game, either you're playing for this, okay, tonight or today, or you're playing for the opportunity to play for this.
The team got the message. The defense showed up and showed out against Pendleton in a 21-7 victory. The map still showed red for Ritchie County, so the Blue Devils on that day were crowned default champions, even though the team still wanted to play Ritchie for the crown.
And obviously, we wanted to play. We wanted to play Ritchie County in the championship game, and it just didn't happen. Didn't work out.
Still in all, the Blue Devils had a trophy ceremony on their home field to celebrate the team's first state championship since 2016. The seniors who led the team throughout the season are not going to be forgotten, says Coach.
Their leadership was one that you want your own child or your own players as they go through to be able to remember back.
They enjoyed their celebration, but come this summer, it'll be time to repeat, and everyone in Class Single A will be coming for the Blue Devils. Coach says that he hopes next year's team is ready to go and put in the work, just like every year.
It's like every year. You just hopefully the guys come out, and hopefully the guys want to work, and hopefully you continue to get better and continue to grow.
St. Mary's, no matter the stakes or what fell your way, you are the 2020 Class Single A champs of West Virginia. From St. Mary's, I'm Ryan Wilson with WTAP.
That's it for sports. Kirk will be right back with one last look at your forecast.
For more weather information, you can download the free Pinpoint Weather app from WTAP and get the extended forecast and all sorts of information in the palm of your hand. Tonight, we're expecting showers to develop between midnight and 4 a.m. It looks like the overnight low will only be 40 and will only warm up to about 42 tomorrow as the showers come to a conclusion in the wee small hours. So enjoy this period. We've got a couple of cold snaps that are coming yet, but generally, we're going to start the new year on a good note. Back to you.
Thank you, Kirk. That's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us, and good night.